Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, Kia EV6 GT compared, yes, two super powerful electric SUVs. We've found out which is the best to drive, which is the best value, the most practical and the safest. We've also done a 180-kilometre efficiency test. We've compared the ranges and also how much electricity they use. Now, of course, if you want to read the full review, go to carsguide.com.au. Let's talk about price, and they are quite pricey. That's because both these cars sit at the top of their ranges. They're also electric, so they've got batteries, and batteries are pretty expensive to make as well. So those are the prices right there on your screen. There's another reason why they're so expensive, and that's because they contain a lot of standard features. Let me show you. Let's start with the Mustang Mach-E GT. Its standard features include 20-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, LED taillights and LED daytime running lights. There's a proximity key that's standard, but you can enter using this keypad on the door pillar. Inside, the Mach-E GT has this mammoth 15.5-inch display and this little but informative instrument cluster. There's also sat-nav, a B&O sound system, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, digital radio and wireless phone charging. The GT has these Ford Performance front seats. They're artificial leather, but they're heated and power adjustable. There's also dual zone climate control. The giant glass roof is standard, but it's actually on all Mach-E's, and so is this privacy glass on the rear windows. That's a lot of stuff. So how does it compare to the EV6 GT? Well, the EV6 GT comes standard with 21-inch alloy wheels, matrix LED headlights, plus LED taillights and LED daytime running lights. The EV6 GT has proximity unlocking, and the key can also be used to park the SUV in and out of car spaces remotely. That's right, without anybody in it. Inside the EV6 GT, these twin curved 12.3-inch screens are standard, and so is a head-up display. There's sat-nav, a Meridian sound system, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, there's digital radio and wireless phone charging. The GT bucket seats in the front aren't power adjustable, but like the Mach-E GTs, they're upholstered in artificial leather and heated. The second row outside seats are also heated. There's dual zone climate control in here as well. Okay, features I really like about the Mustang Mach-E GT. I really like the sound system. The Bang & Olufsen stereo is brilliant. If you like a little bit of karaoke while on the move like me, that B&O sound system is brilliant. I also like the sat-nav. The sat-nav system is really easy to use. I'm not a big fan of these giant screens, but the sat-nav works really well. I don't like, in terms of features, I do not like gigantic glass roofs, especially ones where there's no sunshade which goes across. In Australia, you feel like an ant under a magnifying glass with these gigantic glass roofs. I do like the tinted windows in the back there. It doesn't have a head-up display. It should have a head-up display. The Kia actually has a head-up display for your speed. So yes, those are the things I do like and don't like in terms of the features. Okay, features I like in the Kia EV6 GT. I like the head-up display. I think head-up displays are a brilliant invention. They're really, really good for keeping your eyes on the road and also on the speed at the same time. What else do I like? I like that it will park itself. That's right, with you out of the car. That's right, you can use the key fob as a remote control and it will park itself parallel or perpendicular, whatever you like. That is brilliant too. And the final feature I really like about the EV6 GT is the stereo. It's got a really good sound system. Do you know what? I also think these cars are ridiculously good looking. Let's talk about that. The Mustang Mach-E GT and EV6 GT are almost the same length and width, but they could not look more different from each other. I think the Mach-E GT looks pretty much exactly like a Mustang SUV should, with these famous 3-bar vertical tail lights, the muscly rear haunches, the shark nose bonnet, the headlights and even the grille. Well, it's not really a grille, but you know what I mean. The EV6 looks like some sort of space pod left behind by aliens after an Earth expedition. It's more bloated hatchback than SUV, but I like its bulbous panels, its pinched-in nose, the lime green brake calipers, but the taillights. Look, I respect the uniqueness, but I can't quite convince myself that it looks good. The cabins of both are also vastly different. The Mustang Mach-E GT's cabin is sporty but serious with its fabrics and stitched leather-looking materials. There's a giant screen for almost every function you could want, and a smaller one
for pretty much everything you need.
All right, the cabin of the Mustang Mach-E GT. This feels a little bit more grown up than the Kia cabin. You've got these nice fabric-like materials here. You've got seats which seem to be upholstered in activewear, but it's sporty. So it's sporty but grown up. I'm not 100% sure about this gigantic display. The Ranger's got one as well. The Ford Ranger Ute has got one of these gigantic screens as well. Look, some people love them. It's very Tesla. Tesla sort of were the first to bring out these gigantic portrait and landscape screens. Look, it does work really well, but I tell you what I do like. I actually really do like this tiny little instrument cluster up here. It's got everything you need. It's got your energy usage, it's got your speed. It's kind of all you need. I really only use that for sat-nav. It's disappointing though that I have to use this display to access things like climate control. So yeah, not a huge fan of displays, but yes, this interior, high quality, grown up and slightly sporty.
The EV6's interior is dark and edgy with intricate and interesting textures and patterns. It's definitely more youthful and less serious looking than the Mustang's cabin.
The cabin of the Kia EV6 GT is so much different to the Mustang Mach-E GT's cabin. Look at it. This looks like a virtual reality ride at a theme park. All that's missing is that big metal bar which comes down over your shoulders. Look at these seats. Look at this green piping here. Actually, I like the green. It's a really, really interesting looking design. Look at this dashboard with this adaptive setup in terms of its display for navigation and also for climate control. It's just really, really interesting, really, really intriguing, all these patterns and textures. It's high quality feeling, just a lot more useful and a bit more leery. So different to the Mustangs. I grew up in a world where Holden and Ford V8s made 200 kilowatts, and that was outrageous. That makes 358 kilowatts, and this makes 430 kilowatts. That's ridiculous. They're both all-wheel drive. There's a motor at the front and there's a motor at the back, but it's the torque which is ridiculous. That makes 860 newton meters of torque, and this makes 740 newton meters. Wow. Now, you know how much power they make. How much power do they use? Let me show you. Now, the Mustang Mach-E GT has a 91 kilowatt hour battery, and Ford says it's got a range of 490 kilometers. The Kia EV6 GT has a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, and Kia says that it's got a 424 kilometer range. Now, to test the efficiencies of these electric vehicles, we charged them up to 100%, zeroed the trip computers, and then took them on the most typical road trip you could imagine. That's right, we drove through the CBD, we did suburban streets, we did motorways, we did everything that you would do. And after 180 kilometers, we took them back to the charging station and found out how much power they used. Now, here's a bit of trivia for you. At the end of our trip, which was around about 177, 176 kilometers, the Mustang still had 305 kilometers left in the tank. The Kia, it had 245 kilometers left in the tank. So when it came time to fill them back up with electricity, it turned out that they'd used pretty much exactly the same amount. You can see the figures on your screen now. It was just over 32 kilowatt hours each. And in terms of their fuel consumption or their electricity consumption, it was around about 18 kilowatt hours per 100 litres as well. You can see the actual figures on your screen there. The Mustang, slightly hungrier, but pretty well matched in terms of efficiency. There you go. Okay, let's start in the Mustang Mach-E GT. When you reverse in this car, it beeps like a council truck to let people know that you're there, which is good because I've almost got run over by electric cars that have been reversing before. Okay, here we go. Mach-E GT, phenomenally powerful, 0 to 100 in 3.7 seconds. That's absolutely brutal. That's very quick. Now, 3 good things and 3 bad things. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it quick. Number 1, the first good thing is that it has adaptive suspension. So suspension that's adapting constantly on the fly. It's only available in this top of the range GT grade. And how it works is it's magnetized suspension or magnetized shock absorbers. So as soon as they feel that you've hit something hard and you're driving really fast around a corner on a racetrack maybe, or on a nice bit of country road, it realizes that you'll want to be sporty, so it firms up. And it works quite well, unless it doesn't. And we'll get to that in the 3 not so good points. Okay, number 2 good point about the driving of the Mustang Mach-E GT. It has an untamed driving mode. Okay, so you go into this gigantic screen and you've got 3 different modes, depending on 3 different moods you might be in. There's sort of a very calm one, there's a normal driving mode, and then you've got untamed. And that just pulls all the power possible straight into those motors, and it's brutal. So untamed driving mode. I love it. And I wish I could drive in it all the time. Although there is a downside. We'll get to that in just a moment. With great power comes even better brakes. This Mustang Mach-E GT has excellent brakes, and you need them too, because you are trying to slow down what is a very, very quick vehicle at times. So good brakes. All right, those are top three good things about the way the Mustang Mach-E GT drives. Okay, so here we go. These 3 not so good things, bad things about the way the Mustang Mach-E GT drives. Number 1, it's a bit jiggly. Okay, there's a bit of an issue in terms of the body control. So I'll show you what I mean. When you go over any sort of lump or bump in the road, the car tends to wobble. It's got adaptive suspension, and I believe that it's not always on the ball. Maybe it's a bit late. Can't predict the future, but it does get a little bit wobbly at times. It's good for the most part, and it's definitely a comfortable ride, but does feel a bit wobbly every now and then. Okay, number 2, in terms of things which aren't so good, there are some pretty bad blind spots. The worst is probably this B pillar right here. It is just like a wall right beside my shoulder. You have to really sort of think about that and look around it when you're driving. You do have blind spot warning, which is a magnificent safety tech item. But yeah, number 2, that blind spot.
And for the third thing that I'm not a major fan of in terms of driving, I'd have to say the pedal feel under your feet isn't great. Look, acceleration in any mode appears to be too sharp. And while the brakes are really good, they can be a bit touchy. You only have to dab the brake pedal and it reacts instantly. A bit too instantly.
There's something I need to show you. Here, I'll pull over. There we go. Okay. Now, this is an electric car, so it doesn't make much noise, but you can make it make a noise. In fact, you can give it a V8 noise. So if you go into the screen like that, you can then go to, here we go, propulsion sound. Hit that, and then it sounds like a Mustang GT with a 5-litre V8. Are you ready? Listen. I don't know if you can hear that, but it really sounds, it sounds exactly like the Mustang GT with the 5-litre petrol V8. It's a really good sound, only it's a bit strange having it on an electric vehicle. So let's turn it off and not be embarrassing. Okay, the Kia EV6 GT. Let's drive it 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds. I don't even think you could say that in 3.5 seconds. Let's see. Okay, ready, set, go. The Kia EV6 GT 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds. Stop. You can't say it. I dare you to try. Anyway, let's take it for a drive. I'm going to tell you 3 things I really like about it and 3 things which I don't really like about it. What I can tell you straight off the bat though, in terms of number 1 thing I like, is that this car, the EV6 GT, is a lot more sporty and agile than the Mustang GT, Mustang Mach-E GT. We took it out on a country road and we drove them up and down an amazing hill and put them to the test. And this car, the this Kia went up and down that hill, around those bends like it was on rails. Whereas the Mustang is a bit more floaty, a bit more comfortable, but did not feel as pinned down or as planted as this EV6 GT. Now, this has adaptive suspension as well, but it's different to the Mustangs. It's got settings that you can set it in, so you've got a comfort mode, you've got a sport mode, and then you've got a sport plus. And sport plus is brutally hard. In fact, you can't really live in sport plus. It's like constantly living on the edge. Eventually, you're just going to get exhausted. It's quite brutal. So you put it into normal driving mode, it's quite comfortable, and you drive around town in that. But when you're heading out on a bit of road that you do like, that Sport Plus mode is brilliant. For the most part though, I've just kept it in that more comfortable setting. So number one, it is brutally agile, quick, and has better handling than the Mustang. Number two, the steering is excellent as well. Much better than the Mustang. So the Mustang's got quite heavy, sort of stiff and awkward steering. This feels a lot more natural, a lot more accurate, and better weighted as well. So yeah, this EV6 GT has great steering. That's number two. Now, another thing that I really like about the EV6 GT is the paddles here. Now, they're not shifting paddles. There are no gears to change through in an electric car. It's just got one. It goes forever, pretty much. But what these paddles are for the regenerative braking, and you can put it on level max, and that gives as much energy back to the battery as possible from the brakes. And it also means you've pretty much got one pedal driving, so you can take your foot off the accelerator and can slow right down. Do you come to a complete halt? You do. You come to a complete halt if you just take your foot off the accelerator. Or you can reduce the regenerative braking all the way to level 1, and it just, or you can take it off level 0 and it just rolls like a normal automatic car. And I like those because when you're driving, if you put that in like level 2, it actually helps coming into corners if you need to brake beforehand without touching the brake at all, but without pulling the car up severely. So I like those, and the Mustang Mach-E GT does not have those paddles where you can change it on the fly like that. The first thing that I'm not a major fan of in terms of the Kia EV6 GT, and that is the ride still isn't as comfortable as the Mustang Mach-E GT. And that's mainly because of the thin tyres it's got and the large wheels it's got. So on a road like this, and we're driving on one now, and it's a terrible road, it's got lots of joins in it and patches and potholes and speed bumps, you can feel every single groove and bump and imperfection. It's like stepping on, Lego in bare feet. And there's not much you can do about that unless you were to change the tyres and put big soft cushiony ones on it, which I don't reckon you should do. Just stick to the ones that come with the car. And number 2, these seats. Now honestly, these feel like trying to sit in an office in a gaming chair. You know those gamer chairs? Did I call it a gaming chair? The gamer chairs, those big chairs that gamers have, streamers, with the thing. They just don't, I've sat in this for hours and hours on end, and they just aren't as supportive as the Mustangs. They look better than the Mustangs, they look cool, but they're actually not as supportive and as comfortable as the Mustang seats. After a while, they tend to become uncomfortable. So yeah, the seats, not the best seats in the world, even though they look amazing. Okay, and finally, a final thing I'm not a major fan of in this car, and that is the visibility. I feel like I'm in a sock. I feel like I'm driving a sock. The windows really don't feel big enough, and that's because the styling of the car is so swoopy and sleek and coupey that in terms of being able to see out of it as a driver and an occupant, the visibility is not great. The Mustang does have some blind spots, but this whole car feels like a blind spot. The visibility out the back isn't great, out the side windows and the rear three-quarter windows aren't particularly good either, and yes, you've got a big blind spot here too, and you tend to feel like you're sitting quite low. you know, you feel like you're in the cockpit of a rocket. It's not about looking out, it's about holding on and, you know, performance. So yes, visibility could be better. That's number 3.
The EV6 GT and Mustang Mach-E GT have both been awarded the maximum 5-star ANCAP rating. The EV6's rating is more current though. It received it in 2022, while the Mach-E was given its rating in 2021. Both cars come with loads of safety tech, including AEB, which works for cars, pedestrians and cyclists, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert with braking, lane keeping assistance as well. Now both cars have also got a centre airbag between the front seats. Now when it comes to ownership, the EV6 GT is covered by Kia's EV servicing plan. A 5-year servicing plan for the EV6 GT is $1,561 in total. The Mustang Mach-E GT has capped price servicing, and over 5 years it comes to $780. Yep, half the price of the Kia EV6 servicing plan. The EV6 GT has a longer warranty though. It's a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty for the car and a 7-year 150,000 kilometre warranty on the EV battery system. The Mustang Mach-E GT is covered by Ford's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, while the battery is covered for 8 years or 160,000 kilometres. Now, SUVs need to be practical. After all, the U in SUV stands for utility. So let's see how they compare for people room, storage, and functionality. The Mach-E is a taller vehicle, so already that means you have to stoop less to get in and out. The back seats offer excellent legroom, even for me at 189 centimeters tall, and headroom is great too. Now the floor is flat and that creates more space. There's directional air vents and there are cup holders in the fold-down armrest. The EV6 GT isn't as easy to get in and out of, but rear legroom feels better than the Mach-E's, although headroom is tighter back here. It's more cave-like. The floor in the EV6 GT is also flat. There's directional air vents and cup holders in the armrest. Up front, the Mach-E has storage under the center console, big door pockets, cup holders, USB ports, and wireless phone charging. The EV6 GT has more storage under the floating center console, along with big door pockets, cup holders, USB ports, and wireless phone charging too. Now the boot sizes. Both have plenty of cargo storage in the back behind their second rows, and as you can see, both fit all the CarsGuide luggage. But only the Mustang Mach-E GT has a decent sized front boot. That's it right there. The EV6 GT has about as much room in its front boot as a lunchbox.
And there's something else I need to talk to you about in terms of practicality. Why is it that electric vehicles all have to have weird door handles? Look at this. This is the Mustang's door handle. You've got like a button and a little handle here, and you've got to press the button to open it. And the back door's even odder. It's just a button. You press and it pops open. What happens when that breaks? Let me show you the Kia. This is the Kia EV6 GT. It's also got weird door handles. Look. Weird. Hang on, wait a second. The Mustang Mach-E GT also has this, a digital touchpad as an alternative way to unlock and lock the car. If only I could remember what my code was. It's normally 666. Oh well, I'll just have to use a button. So who wins today? Is it the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT or the Kia EV6 GT? This is a really, really difficult comparison. It's a great comparison, but they are so closely matched, yet they're so different. Their outputs are tremendous, but they're also very, very evenly matched. Their efficiency is very, very evenly matched as well, as we found in our big efficiency test. The Mustang has a bigger battery, it's got more range. The Kia is better to drive on a fast bit of twisty road. The Mustang is more comfortable day to day to live with. It's possibly got more utility in terms of sports utility, but this has probably got more sports. Really, it comes down to taste. These are so evenly matched, but so very different in their looks and appeal. Look, I'm going to give it to the Mustang, but I tell you what, you could flip a coin because they're both brilliant.